Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back. Hopefully, you all had a good weekend and you're all doing well. Your families and friends are all doing well and safe. Today, I have another easy one for you guys. It's going to continue basically on what we've been doing. We've been talking about factoring the difference of two squares. Now, we're going to talk about factoring perfect squares completely. Now, here's what you have to know. You will see these words on a Regents exam. And guys, when it says factoring completely, always factor twice. What that means is these steps that I taught you last week, which by the way, all of you who submitted that work, you did great on, okay, which is awesome. So I know you know these 4 steps. Now, instead of doing these 4 steps once, whenever it says factor completely, you're going to do these steps twice. You're going to do them 2 times, and I will show you what that looks like. It is incredibly simple. You will be needing your calculator today. Okay, so real quick, let's just review the steps. The steps when you factor the difference of 2 squares or perfect squares is to set up 2 sets of parentheses. You guys did great with that. Minus sign we always put to the right. Plus sign we always put to the left. And then we basically just find the square root of each term and bring them down. Now the good thing about factoring completely, and what I love about it for the Regents, is guys, the Regents will always literally tell you to factor completely. You're never going to have to guess if you have to do that. It will always say it. How many words is factoring completely? Factor completely. It's 2 words. That means you factor twice always. Simple. So let's take a look at this. Do we have here with x to the 4th minus 81, do we have a perfect square binomial? The answer is yes. X to the 4th is a perfect square. 81 is a perfect square, and of course we have our minus sign in between. So what's our first step? Our first step is, whoops, sorry about that. Our first step is to set up 2 sets of parentheses, which all of you did last week and all of you did this well. And then you put the minus sign to the right. You guys did this last week. You put a plus sign here. You did great with it. Now, what's the square root of x to the 4th? Everyone last week told me x squared and you were correct. So I expect no difference from you here. Square root of 81 is 9. Now, last week we were done. But guys, I didn't factor twice, right? Factor completely means factor twice, always. So, well, that means I have to factor one more time. So you have to look carefully at your answer. You have an x squared plus 9 and an x squared minus 9. Which one of these is a perfect square that I could factor one more time? Notice they both have the same variables and they have the same number. But notice this one has a plus, this has a minus. What did we always say? Perfect square binomials always have to have a minus. You cannot factor this. It has a plus sign. Therefore, this is the binomial that we can factor one more time. So go through these 4 steps again. Once again, open 2 sets of parentheses, just like you did last week. Minus sign goes to the right once again. Plus sign in the left parenthesis once again. But now get the square root of x squared. You guys know this from last week. The square root of x squared is x. What is the square root of 9? The square root of 9 is 3. Are you done? Almost. You see this first binomial, guys? This just comes down. That's it. You just bring it down. Parentheses, x squared plus 9. You are literally just copying this first binomial down to the front, and then you factor the second one. So now, guys, instead of having 2 binomials for an answer, you now have 3. Your final answer is x squared plus 9 times x plus 3 times x minus 3. Notice I have 2 colors, red and blue, because I factored twice. Why did I factor twice? Because it said factor completely. Boom. That's all this is. Let's do another one. Same thing here. Notice now the Regents put the words close together. Sometimes they'll space them out. Sometimes they'll be together, but when it says factor completely, guys, we always, always, always factor twice. Okay? X to the 4th minus 16, that is in fact a perfect square, so you start with 2 sets of parentheses. Minus sign to the right, as always. First sign is a plus with perfect squares, as always. The square root of x to the fourth is x squared. The square root of 16, be careful. Some of my students were saying 8 last week. Guys, the square root of 16 is 4. If you're not sure, throw it in the calculator. Normally, you would be finished, but because it says factor completely, we have to factor twice. That means we have to factor one more time. No problem. Which of these can be factored again? It's always the one with the minus. Open up another 2 sets of parentheses. Minus sign once again to the right. First sign's a plus. What is the square root of x squared? X and x. What is the square root of 4? 2 and 2. And then don't forget my first binomial of x squared plus 4, he just comes down. Parentheses, x squared plus 4, boom. What is your final answer? Right here. X squared plus 4 times x plus 2 times x minus 2. And guys, that is factoring completely. Next, factor completely. X to the fourth minus 625. Now, when you see these problems on the Regents, chances are you're going to have larger numbers. That's okay. We have our calculator for that. First step, 2 sets of parentheses. Minus sign to the right. First sign's a plus. Square root of x to the fourth is x squared. Now, square root of 625. Let's say you don't know it. No problem. Go to your calculator. Second function, x squared, 625, and you hit enter. Boom. Square root of 625, guys, is 25. Okay? So you put 25 in both binomials here. Boom. And right here. Normally you would finish, but because it says factor completely, guys, that means we always factor twice. Well, no problem. Which of the binomials below can we factor again? Always the one with the minus sign. That's always your perfect square, so that's where my 2 parentheses go. Minus to the right, first sign's a plus. Square root of x squared, x and x. Square root of 25, we know that, 5 and 5. Can x squared plus 25 be factored? Absolutely not, because of the plus sign, so it just comes down. You copy it exactly as you see it. It is not illegal to copy, guys. Final answer. X squared plus 25 times x plus 5 times x minus 5. Ladies and gentlemen, that is factoring completely. Let's look at some more problems. Okay, once again, now this number is large, right? You have 10,000, no problem. X to the fourth minus 10,000 y to the fourth. This is a perfect square. 2 sets of parentheses. Once again, it says factor completely. How many words? 2. So how many times do we factor? We factor twice. Minus sign to the right. First sign's a plus. Square root of x to the fourth is x squared. Square root of 10,000 y to the fourth. Well, I have an idea what 10,000 might be, but maybe you don't know what it is. No problem. Guys, use your calculator. That's why we have it. Second, x squared, you put 10,000. Notice I didn't put the comma in. You never put commas in the calculator. You hit enter. And of course, as I had figured, it is 100. Okay? So no problem. So we put 100 in there. But guys, it's not just 100, because what do you notice that is next to the 10,000? It's y to the fourth. So it's actually 100 y to the second. Don't forget that y to the second. And the Regents snuck that in there on you. Now, which of these can be factored again? Because remember, it says factor twice. Well, it's always the one with the minus sign. So another 2 sets of parentheses. Minus to the right. First sign's a plus. Square root of x squared is x and x. Square root of 100 y to the second is 10y. 10y. Can you factor with a plus sign when you have perfect squares? Absolutely not. Your first binomial just comes down. X squared plus 100 y to the second. Boom. All right, and that, notice 3 sets of parentheses is your answer when you factor these completely. X squared plus 100y squared times x plus 10y times x minus 10y. And there you go. Last one. This is a perfect example of a part 2 Regents question. Okay? It said Christian factored completely the expression x to the 4th minus 2,401 below. Christian got x squared plus 49 times x squared minus 49. This is probably because, guys, he forgot where the stream was and he didn't see our lesson. So it said, did Christian factor completely for full credit? Did Christian factor twice? The answer is no. So did Christian factor for full credit? No. He did not. Well, how do we know, right? Because which of these can be factored again? So you would say because x squared minus 49 can be factored. And I'm sorry for my sloppy handwriting with this, guys. All right. And now it says show your work. Okay, because it wants to know what should the final answer be. Well, let's set up our 2 sets of parentheses, and I should have left a little more room for this. I apologize. Minus to the right, first sign's a plus. Guys, what's the square root of x squared? We know that is x and x. What's the square root of 49? We know that is 7 and 7. And what do we do with our first binomial? It comes down. So your final answer is x squared plus 49 times x plus 7 times x minus 7. And honestly, just to be a little neater, guys, I'm going to write it out down here, which on the Regents, guys, you want your work to be neat so we could grade it and see it and give you full credit. X squared plus 49 times x plus 7 times x minus 7. All right? And guys, that is factoring completely with perfect squares part 1. It's simple. All right? Now when we get into factoring perfect squares completely part 2, the following day, that's when we're going to bring in our GCF, which we'll talk about, but it's still not that difficult. All right, so please, any questions, email me. My email is in the description below. Okay, please comment below on what you liked or what you didn't like. Subscribe, like, and share, guys. And as always, stay safe, you and your families, and I will see you guys on the next lesson. You're doing great. Have a great day.